All right, guys, so we have major news here for you that largely went under the radar, but this is probably the biggest deal because it really highlights how Trump's entire war against Iran is illegal and offensive, and most importantly, simply based on outright lies. It's based on lies. So take a look at this. Oman's foreign minister, who was involved in the negotiations between Iran and the U.S., says Iran agreed to, quote, zero enriched uranium stockpiling. Within hours, Israel and the U.S. attacked them. It was never about peace or uranium, but about acting out Netanyahu's biggest bloodthirsty fantasy. That's correct. As you guys have heard from me and many others, he's trying to create a greater Israel. Netanyahu wants to create a greater Israel. Therefore, everything else is a ruse. Any negotiations are a ruse. Any diplomacy is a ruse. And he was trying to get the U.S. to agree to do this illegal and offensive war. And now here we are. Okay, so let me play this here for you. Massive, massive bombshells in this.
What has Iran agreed to you that they have never done before? Can you give us any sense?
The single most important achievement, I believe, is the agreement that Iran will never, ever have a nuclear material that will create a bomb.
So, in other words, they had already said repeatedly, we don't want a nuclear weapon. We're not going to have a nuclear weapon. Now they're saying even the material that could theoretically make it so we can get a nuclear weapon, we'll even give that up. Zero enriched uranium, we'll even give that up.
This is, I think, a big achievement. This is something that is not in the old deal that was negotiated during President Obama's time. This is something completely new.
So, in other words, it is harsher provisions than the JCPOA, which was the Obama nuclear agreement. The Obama nuclear agreement was, we'll give you back your own money that we stole through sanctions, and you are allowed to have, a nuclear program, but it's for power for your power grid and for scientific research. And the UN, the IAEA will go in there and verify you're only enriching to the point where it's for civilian use, right? That was the whole idea. And by the way, it worked perfectly. Over a dozen times, the IAEA verified, hey, they're following it. There's no problems whatsoever. Trump came in, violated the deal, and ripped up the agreement, okay? And then Biden didn't get back in the deal, and now Trump started this war. But what he's saying is they're agreeing to crack down even more on their uranium stockpiling, zero enriched uranium stockpiling, which is a huge concession. And it was within hours of saying this, Netanyahu and Trump attacked Iran within hours.
It really makes the enrichment argument less relevant because now we are talking about zero stockpiling. And that is very, very important because if you cannot stockpile material that is enriched, then there is no way you can actually create a bomb.
By the way, the part that nobody will say is that if Iran did have a nuclear weapon, this would all be avoided. And the evidence of that is, of course, Kim Jong-un. He has a nuclear weapon and he can't be fucked with because he has that nuclear weapon. Libya gave up their weapons of mass destruction, and then Gaddafi was toppled and killed and sodomized with a bayonet. Of course, Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction, and that's why he was destroyed. That's why Saddam was destroyed. So the message the world gets now is you actually have to have a nuke in order to protect yourselves from Western aggression.
And I think this is really something that has been missed a lot by the media, and I want to clarify that from the standpoint of a mediator.
Not only has the media missed it, the media, I don't know if they've ever directly reported and really put an onus on the fact that Iran says all the time that we don't want a nuclear weapon. They call it un-Islamic. They say we don't want it. We've never wanted one. Trump said the other day, they won't say the magic words that they're not going to have a nuke. And the foreign minister literally went out the same day and said, we don't want a nuke. We're not going to have a nuke. They, like, again, total postmodernist world that they live in. They make shit up and they run with it and they lie and they lie. So they're also going to pretend like, oh, this was defensive in nature. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. The Washington Post reported not only were they not going to attack us, they wouldn't have even had the capability to attack us for a fucking decade. And we still attacked.
So the enriched material, the things that could be used as nuclear fuel for a bomb, you're saying Iran would not keep on their own soil?
They would give it up.
They would give it up?
They will not be able to actually accumulate that material that will enable them to create a bomb. There's no accumulation. So there will be zero accumulation, zero stockpiling, and full verification. That is also equally important achievement, I think, a full and comprehensive verification by the IAEA, which is the agency in charge of this file.
The UN nuclear watchdog.
That's
So
right.
you're saying all enriched material would be shipped someplace else, not Russia, but
No, the current stockpiles that still exist.
The things that are still in Iran.
I think that there is agreement now that this will be downblended to the lowest level possible.
Okay.
So, as somebody says here, imagine starting a major war with Iran over their nuclear program when this is on the official White House website. Iran's nuclear facilities have been obliterated, and suggestions otherwise are fake news. That's literally from June. That is literally from June. And people are posting memes like this all over the place. I'll miss you, but I need to go to Iran to kill the kids like you. If I don't, then people who rape kids like you might go to jail. It is the Jeffrey Epstein war, y'all. Call it Operation Epstein Fury or the Jeffrey Epstein war, because that's what it is. That's what it is. And we all know that there's plenty of evidence. Mossad has blackmail on Trump through Jeffrey Epstein, and Netanyahu probably held that over Trump's head and said, you're going to do this regime change or else. Okay? But now you know it. You need to spread the word far and wide. Iran was no threat whatsoever. It was no threat to Israel. It was no threat to us. Like I said, Washington Post said they couldn't attack us. Even for up to a decade, they wouldn't have had the ability to attack us. And now you know, they literally agreed to all of the strictest terms from the right. And so even in other words, they're agreeing to even the poison pills that were slipped into the negotiations to make them blow up. They were like, fine, whatever, we'll do that too. And then they got attacked. And so now Trump is begging for a ceasefire because we're running out of interceptors. And they're like, nope, we're not giving you a ceasefire. I'm telling you, they mistook their willingness to negotiate with weakness. And now the U.S. is paying the price, Israel's paying the price, and the world is going to pay the price. And oil prices and gas prices are going to absolutely skyrocket. And literally none of this had to be done. But since Trump is trying to hide the fact that he raped kids, we are where we are. We're on the brink of fucking World War III. All because Trump is trying to hide what we already know about him, that he raped kids. That's where we're at right now. But Iran was giving up zero enriched uranium they agreed to. Zero enriched uranium stockpiling. And it wasn't enough. And they still got attacked. Everything that they're going to try to pitch to you about this war is complete and utter bullshit.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.